Next from Springfield, we talk with representatives of the Arc of Illinois after a rally in which they advocated for moving the developmentally disabled out of state institutions and into community homes. Later, we talk to those who do not believe community homes can offer the extensive care needed for certain developmentally disabled people, and that state institutions provide an invaluable service. This runs about 15 minutes.
All right, Tony, so we just finished this rally here, and you guys are arguing to close the state institutions and put people with developmental disabilities into community-based homes. Why? What's the benefit of this?
Well, there are many benefits. Let's talk about costs first of all. We spend $428 million to keep people locked up in antiquated state institutions. The very same type of support that you can do in the community costs about $53,000 per year. You can serve 4.5 people in the community versus one person in the institution. Now let's talk about the benefits of that. Across the United States, states have been closing institutions for well over 40 years. Most of those closures also come with a study about how people's lives improve or don't improve when they move to a different setting. Over all that research that we've done, and that research has been done in Illinois as well, we find four things. People who transition to the community have a higher quality of life. They live healthier, happier lives. They have more choices, and their health care remains the same or improves. So when you put the dollars and cents together and you put the research together, there's no reason why everybody cannot live in the community with the proper supports.
I've heard those on the opposing side say that the quality of life for community-based homes isn't that great. What do you have to say about that, Tony?
Well, again, I could go back to the research. We're here in Springfield, Illinois. About a year and a half ago, down the street here in Jacksonville, we closed the Jacksonville Developmental Center. We heard those same arguments. Remember I talked to you about the research? We studied those families. And the people that were families that we talked to, 87% of them thought that their sons and daughters' lives had improved. They had more choices. They were being more engaged in their daily living. We also, the university also interviewed residents who left, and each and every one of them said they would not go back. They love their new home. They're doing things that they've never done before in their lives. So we've seen that here in Illinois. You have to give it a chance. It has to be put together in the proper way. Safety is the most important thing for all of us in any kind of a transition. And I understand the family's concerns, but the time to move forward is now.
So I heard you use the words locked up in the institutions. That's an interesting way to put it. Do you think that when those with disabilities go to community homes, they have like a more sense of freedom?
Oh, absolutely. When you're in a state institution, you eat there, you sleep there, you're with the same people, day after day after day. If you get out, it's in a very large group setting, and it's only with people with disabilities. When you go to a community setting, the idea there is that you're taking advantage of your community and the natural supports that are there. So you go to the church that you want to be a part of. Hopefully you're involved with a job, full-time or part-time. Well, if you can't do a job, you can do volunteer work. So it's a much richer lifestyle for folks. And again, the folks that I know that have moved out of state institutions and are living in the community, 201, they would never go back. They would never go back.
So those that are advocating to keep state institutions open, why do you think that is? What are their reasons?
I think part of it is certainly not knowing about what's available. I can also say that in past years, 20 years ago, we weren't doing it the way that we're doing it today, and we've learned from some mistakes. We know how important it is to incorporate and use the individual in terms of what they want and what their needs are. We call that person-centered planning. And we know if the family's still around, it's important to engage the family in that process of moving out of state institutions as well. Change is difficult for everyone. And I could connect you with some families that, have gone through that change, and they wouldn't go back either.
Okay, Tony, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I think I would say that the ARC represents 220,000 infants, children, and adults with developmental disabilities in Illinois. That is who we are. We aren't a splinter group of trying to keep one little center open in a different part of the Illinois. We are the whole state of Illinois, 220,000 Illinois people and their families. That's a big deal.
Okay, thank you. Feel about it. Why did you decide to participate in this rally?
Well, I think it's important for them to know that not only it's for people with disabilities, but living in the community is a really huge thing. I am the first person with a disability included in my own community, and since I was born, since 1986 until 29 years. So it's been really a long life for me, but I've been very active in my whole life and in my own community.
Have you always lived in a community-based home?
Yes. I live with my parents and my siblings, but now I'm living with my parents. My siblings are married, and they have, one of them has kids, and I'm their aunt. So I have 11, 2-year-old, and I have a 8-month-old baby.
And Bridget, how do you feel about the state institutions? How do they make you feel?
Sick to my stomach.
How come?
Because I work with my mom and Mark Doyle. We have the support team that works for the state institutions for Jacksonville, Illinois, and we close them down, try to help close down. And we do person-centered planning, and we go in and I record it and I help plan their lives to live in a community-based living. Well, I've been living in my community ever since I was born, and it didn't change me, but it helped me, being involved in activities and knowing my classmates. Like, I'm in the same community as all my classmates live. And not only that, I've been involved in lots of different things. So community is like being involved in activities, social life. And it helps me to be independent because then it shows me, like, what to expect in life and why we have a life and why God put us here. As what Barack Obama said in his speech, doors swung open. 50 years since the civil rights movement crossed that Selma Bridge in Alabama. And those doors swung open for me to be included in my own community because of what Barack Obama said in his speech about the civil rights movement in 50 years since they crossed the bridge.
Although community homes work fine for many, others are concerned community homes do not have the capabilities needed to address the needs of certain developmentally disabled people.
This is their choice of where they want to live. It is mandated by federal law. Some people need that choice, and they need the care of what we have there. They need expert medical staff, and the residents that the state was moving out were no longer allowed to see their social workers, were no longer allowed to see their psychiatrists. They had medical expertise around them 24 hours a day, and they moved them into Silas where they had no medical expertise. This caused a lot of trouble for a lot of residents.
My son is 30 years old. He functions as a 9-month-old. He needs round-the-clock care. He needs round-the-clock nursing care. He needs totally fed, diapered, changed. As I said, he functions as a baby. Now, we also have other residents there who have had community placement, and they have failed because they do not have the proper supports in the community to care for some of the residents who live at Murray Center.
And so, am I correct? And so your contention is the community homes might be fine for a lot of people, but they're not a solution for those who would be severely developmentally disabled, as with your son. They just wouldn't fit into the community home environment.
Absolutely, because during the attempted closure of Murray, we had providers come in and look at some of our residents who live with my son, and they absolutely refused to take them. They said caring for them in the community would cost you probably $300,000 per resident just to care for them in the community because of their many, severe medical or psychological needs.